Now I know you guys see the drip, and I know you like it, and I also know you've seen a lot of people do this, but I'm 100% sure you haven't seen the process on how to do this from beginning to end. That's why I'm making this video for you today. Welcome back to Embroidery Knowledge with Willy. Let's get to it. Today I'm finally updating my embroidery machine, and guess what? I'm going to be showing you the process from beginning to end so that you can do this yourself. Now for your near goals, if you want to start your business or grow your business, this is a perfect time, and let me tell you why. Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm here with the one and only Alan Wade. What's up, Alan? Two different ESP files from one. Because this is one of the coolest features. Today we're going to be learning how to move your hands in a little bit more. And like always, before I get started, I like to give you guys as much information as possible so that you understand the process. So the first thing we have to focus on, and to me is probably the most important part, is going to be the design itself. Now let's talk about the design. The design is basically just an applique. Now there are some changes that we're gonna have to do to the steps to be able to create the effect. So what is an applique? Now I have done a video in the past, so you guys can look at that video after you're done watching this one, which I explain how to do a standard applique. Now we will be making some changes to some of the steps. So the first step on an applique, it's usually just a regular run stitch, which is going around the border of the design, and that's what we call the trace stitch. After the trace stitch, the next step is going to be the tack down stitch. Now the tack down stitch is meant to hold down the material before it does the last step. Usually the tack down stitch is just regular run stitches, maybe with a little bit extra stitches to be able to hold down the fabric more. Some of them even tend to have a stitch going inside of the fabric to be able to stretch the fabric out. Now this part we will be changing because we do not want a stitch going inside of the foam, because then that will take down the 3D effect. So what we're gonna use instead is called a bean stitch, which is still a run stitch, just a little bit different. Now how the bean stitch works is basically one beginning stitch, then it goes up and makes another stitch. Then it comes down to the middle, and then it goes up again, and so on until it goes around the design. Now that's pretty much it for the tack down portion. Now let's move on to the next step, which is usually the border. Now for the border, most of the times you'll be using a satin stitch border. In this case, we do not want to use that, so we're going to be replacing that with what we call a double run stitch. Now a double stitch is very simple. It's just basically a run stitch, but that it goes 2 times instead of 1. Now for this, we do want to add a little bit of extra stitches. So the length of each stitch, you want to shorten them out. I usually like to stay around 1.5 millimeters away from each stitch. And that's it for the design. Now, I hope I was able to explain myself correctly. If not, and you're still having some questions about this, just let us know in the comments below and we'll reach out to you and help you out. So now let's move on to the materials that we're going to be using. Now, the first thing that we're going to be using is our magnetic hoop or mighty hoop. This is the 11 by 13. You could technically use a regular hoop that comes with the machine, but I much prefer using this because it'll hold down the stabilizer as much as possible. So if you don't have one of these and you want to get one, make sure you go to the website down below, and we have a special going on that you get it for 10% off. The next thing we need is going to be our foam. Now our foam, we want to have the thickest foam you could possibly get because you want to have that effect to come out as much as possible. Now in this case, I'm using a 5mm embroidery foam, so it is pretty thick. Now the next thing we're gonna be using is very important, is going to be our adhesive spray. For this, you wanna make sure that the adhesive spray is not permanent. So make sure that you're gonna be able to take it out and separate it because you will need to clean up the stabilizer in the back afterwards. Now the other important thing we're gonna be using is our stabilizer. You wanna make sure you are using cutaway stabilizer. Now depending on the thickness of your stabilizer, you can use 1, and if it's not that thick, then like myself, I'm gonna be using 2 instead of 1. Now, something that I highly recommend is to mix and match your stabilizers. So for example, you could use 1 thick cutaway, and behind it, you could use a tender touch. Or maybe if you want, you could use an iron-on stabilizer. And the reason for this is because the design is going to be pretty big and you don't want to have the customer feel like they're wearing a cardboard. So by using one of those, it'll definitely boost up the quality of your work. Last but not least, we're going to be using some tweezers and some snips, and obviously the hoodie or the garment that you want to do this on. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the process. Let's go over to the panel and select the design. We're gonna go to pattern, and we're gonna go to the last page. We're gonna select the design, and we're gonna save it. Once we do that, we're gonna go over to our colors. Now this part is very important. You wanna make sure that we add a stop to every single step. In this case, I only have 3 steps, so I'm gonna add a stop to each and every one. And we want to do this automatically because we want the machine to be able to do this all on its own. So how we do that is very simple. Right at the bottom left corner, we have the applique option, and all we have to do is just select and add it to each one. And obviously select the colors that you would like. In this case, the main color we have to focus on is the last one. And to get the best effect, I'm going to be using a similar color from the hoodie. All right, once we have that, we're going to select save, and then we're going to go ahead and select the hoop size that we're going to be using. So I'm going to go over to Mighty Hoops and then select the 11 by 13. Now the next step is very important. Since we are using a hoodie, what I like to do is flip the design upside down, because if not, you're going to have a lot of the hoodie stuck behind the machine and it's just a lot more work. You will have to be on top of the machine more often because you don't want any other part of the hoodie or of your fabric to get caught and get sold. So let's go to configuration, and now I'm going to go to angles and I'm going to give it a 180. And that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and close it. Select ready. The next step is very simple. We're just going to grab our stabilizer. In my case, I'm going to use 2 sheets of stabilizer, and we're going to go ahead and hoop it. Once we have it hooped, we're just going to go ahead and put it in the machine. Now let's go ahead and select the start button and let it do the first step.
Geral chama ela de gostosa. Quando ela passa no baile, geral chama ela de gostosa. Que ela é?
All right, so now once it's done with the tray stitch, the next step is very simple. We're going to grab our foam and we're just going to place it right over. Now you could use the adhesive spray to hold the foam in place, but it's not necessary because the stitches will hold down the foam anyways. Once we do that, let's press the start button so that it can continue. All right, guys, the next step is very simple. It's just to take off the foam that we don't need. Once we rip off the foam, the best part about this is that you don't have to be perfect. It's okay if there's some foam left because anyways, most of this is gonna get covered up anyways. The next thing we're going to do is we're gonna use our spray and we're gonna go ahead and spray it all around. Once we spray the adhesive, the next step is to hoop the hoodie. So let's go ahead and do that now. So it'll look something like this. And what you're gonna do is you're going to make sure you uncover the bracket arms because it has to go inside. And then once you do that, then you can move this behind the head. The easiest way to hoop the hoodie would be to do it inside out and then find the center and press it onto the hoop because the adhesive will hold it in place. Okay, now that we did that and we made sure it's cleared out of its way, Let's go ahead and press the start.
Capoeira.
All right, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you make a ton of money doing this for your customers. Don't forget that with PrintDirect US, you have US lifetime training and technical support with over 70 technicians all over the US. We're here to help you. Thank you so much for watching this video. And like always, you know that we teach you what no one else does. So stay tuned to the next video. Take care.